I'm Emma Wilson, 28, and I never thought my perfect credit score would be weaponized against me by my own family. Opening that mysterious envelope addressed to me about a mortgage refinancing was confusing, especially since I didn't own a house. Finding out my parents had secretly taken out a $900,000 loan in my name for my brother Ryan's girlfriend Jennifer left me breathless. "You'll understand someday," Mom said dismissively when I confronted her. I just smiled and nodded, but inside, I was already planning my next move. Before I continue this story, let me know where you're watching from in the comments. If you've ever had family take advantage of you, hit that like button and subscribe to hear how I handled this betrayal, in a way nobody expected. Growing up in suburban Chicago, I was the definition of a daddy's girl and mommy's little helper. Our family photos showed 4 smiling faces: Mom, Dad, my older brother Ryan, and me, with perfectly coordinated outfits and genuine happiness. Dad worked as an engineering manager while Mom ran a successful interior design business from home, allowing her to attend every school event and make every dinner. They instilled in me the importance of financial responsibility from an early age. I started babysitting at 12, got my first official job at 16, and saved every dollar I could. When college acceptance letters arrived, I chose the state university that offered me a partial scholarship, working 20 hours weekly at the campus bookstore to avoid student loans. 4 years later, I graduated debt-free with a finance degree and landed an entry-level position at a respected financial firm in Chicago. My parents beamed with pride at my graduation, Dad wiping away tears as I crossed the stage. "You've always been our responsible one," he said during the celebration. Dinner. Those words should have been my first clue about the family dynamic, but I took them as pure compliment at the time. Ryan's path was markedly different. 2 years older than me at 32, he'd bounced between 3 different colleges before finally graduating with a general studies degree after 6 years. His resume consisted of a string of jobs lasting under a year each: retail management, inside sales, restaurant work, none developing into a career. Each transition came with financial emergencies that our parents handled without hesitation. Car repairs, rent deposits, credit card bailouts, they never said no. "Ryan just hasn't found his passion yet," Mom would explain when I expressed concern. "He's creative, not meant for conventional paths." I nodded along while building my career methodically, earning promotions through consistent performance and dedication. By 28, I'd established an excellent credit score of 820, saved for retirement, and created an emergency fund that could cover 6 months of expenses. Financial stability gave me immense pride, security I'd earned through discipline and planning. Then Jennifer entered our family orbit when Ryan brought her to Christmas dinner 3 years ago. Tall, blonde, and dressed in designer clothes, she dominated conversation with stories about her family's vacation properties and her plans to launch a revolutionary business concept. My parents were instantly captivated, particularly by her claims of family wealth and connections. "Jennifer's father knows the governor personally," Ryan announced proudly, while she modestly waved away the comment with a diamond tennis bracelet sparkling on her wrist. I noticed she never actually described what her family business entailed, deflecting questions with vague references to various industries and diversified investments. During kitchen cleanup, I asked Mom what she thought. "She's exactly what Ryan needs," Mom replied. "Someone with vision and ambition." I bit my tongue, rather than pointing out that ambition typically involves actual work, something I hadn't heard mentioned in Jennifer's grand plans. Over the next year, family gatherings shifted subtly. Ryan and Jennifer became the focal point, their relationship and future plans dominating conversations. Jennifer would show photos of luxury homes on her iPad, discussing features they absolutely needed when they bought property. My news about promotions or investments received quick congratulations before topics returned to Ryan's latest job prospect or Jennifer's business concepts. I tried ignoring the pattern, focusing instead on my next goal, purchasing my first home. After researching neighborhoods within my budget, I applied for mortgage pre-approval and began touring properties. Strangely, my first 2 applications were denied despite my excellent credit and stable income. Loan officers seemed confused when reviewing my file, mentioning existing obligations without specifics. Frustration mounting, I was about to contact a credit bureau when a strange envelope arrived at my apartment. Financial Freedom Mortgage Services addressed it to me regarding a property refinancing opportunity. This caught me off guard since I didn't own property yet. Inside was a letter congratulating me on qualifying for lowered interest rates on my existing mortgage for a property on Willow Lane in Lakeview, one of Chicago's most expensive neighborhoods. Assuming it was junk mail or a scam, I nearly tossed it until I noticed the loan amount, $900,000. My heart skipped as I searched my online banking app for unfamiliar transactions. A notification banner I'd previously overlooked flashed at the top. Your mortgage application status has been updated. Clicking through security questions revealed details of a recently approved loan in my name for a property I'd never seen. The floor seemed to tilt beneath me as I stared at the screen, wondering how this could possibly be happening. With trembling fingers, I dialed the number on the Financial Freedom Mortgage letterhead. After navigating the automated system and verifying my identity, a chipper customer service representative congratulated me on my beautiful Lakeview property. My mouth went dry as she confirmed the mortgage details. $900,000 principal, approved 3 months prior, with the first few payments already processed on time. Could you verify the property address? I asked, grabbing a pen. She recited an address on Willow Lane, a street I recognized from luxury real estate listings I'd wistfully browsed while setting more modest personal goals. And who made the most recent payment? I pressed, attempting to keep my voice steady. Let me check our records, she replied. After a brief pause, the payment was processed from an account under Richard Wilson, my father's name. Is there a problem with your mortgage, Ms. Wilson? The representative asked, clearly noting the tension in my silence. I'm just reviewing some paperwork, I responded vaguely before thanking her and ending the call. 20 minutes later, I parked across from a stunning modernist home with expansive windows and a landscaped entrance. The property exuded wealth and taste, precisely the kind of home I aspired to afford someday after years of career advancement and saving. The kind that should have been utterly beyond my brother's financial reach. As I sat paralyzed with confusion, a familiar Audi pulled into the driveway. Ryan stepped out, carrying grocery bags from an upscale market. My stomach clenched as I exited my modest sedan and approached him. His expression shifted from surprise to unmistakable guilt when he spotted me. Emma, what are you doing here? He called with forced cheerfulness. I could ask you the same thing, I replied, gesturing toward the house. Since apparently I own this place. Ryan's face paled. He glanced nervously at the front door before walking toward me. Let's talk in the backyard, he muttered, leading me around a stone path to a perfectly manicured garden with outdoor furniture that probably cost more than my car. So, I began, struggling to maintain composure. Want to explain why there's a mortgage for this place in my name? Ryan set the groceries down, not meeting my eyes. Mom and Dad helped us get this place, he finally admitted. Jennifer needed the right address for her business contacts, and with my credit history, his voice trailed off as the front door opened. Jennifer appeared, designer sunglasses perched on her head, looking annoyed until she spotted me. Her expression instantly transformed to delight. Emma, what a surprise, she exclaimed, approaching for an air kiss. Now you finally get to see our home. Isn't it absolute perfection? The previous owners accepted our offer after Ryan's parents helped with financing. She looped her arm through mine, pulling me toward the house. You must see the kitchen. Italian marble countertops and custom cabinetry. I told the designer I wouldn't settle for anything less. The surreal tour continued as Jennifer led me through rooms furnished with pieces that would take me years to afford. All while I struggled with the growing certainty that my name and credit had been used. Without my knowledge or consent, Ryan followed silently, avoiding my questioning glances. The master bathroom has a Japanese soaking tub, Jennifer continued, oblivious to the tension. Absolutely essential for my self-care routine with how stressful launching a business is. I extracted myself from her grip near the front door. "It's beautiful," I said stiffly, "but I need to discuss something with Ryan privately." Jennifer pouted, but retreated to another room after Ryan nodded. "How exactly did Mom and Dad help with financing?" I demanded, once Jennifer was out of earshot. Ryan shifted uncomfortably. "It's complicated, Em. Jennifer's business plan required a prestigious address, but her parents wouldn't help. My credit was shot from that business venture last year. Mom and Dad wanted to support us, but they're still carrying their own mortgage." I waited for the admission I already knew was coming. "They suggested using your credit profile temporarily," he finally mumbled. "Just until Jennifer's business takes off or my credit improves. They're making the payments from their account." The betrayal stole my breath. Without telling me? Without asking permission? Ryan had the decency to look ashamed. "They thought, you might overreact. It's really not that big a deal. They've never missed a payment. It's just a technicality using your good credit." "A technicality?" I repeated incredulously. "Ryan, that's identity theft. That's fraud." "Don't be dramatic," he replied, annoyance creeping into his voice. "It's family helping family. Mom and Dad would do the same for you." Unable to continue the conversation without saying things I might regret, I walked out without responding. The drive home passed in a blur of shock and confusion. Once in my apartment, I immediately pulled my credit report, confirming my fears. There was the massive loan, dramatically altering my debt-to-income ratio and explaining my recent mortgage rejections. My phone rang. My mother. With a deep breath, I answered, wondering what possible explanation could justify this betrayal from the people who had taught me financial responsibility in the first place. 2 nights later, I sat across from my parents at their dining table, the familiar setting now feeling like hostile territory. Mom had prepared my favorite meal, herb-roasted chicken with rosemary potatoes, an obvious attempt to soften what she must have known would be a difficult conversation. Dad nervously refilled his wine glass for the 3rd time, while Mom maintained a practiced smile that didn't reach her eyes. "So," I began, pushing food around my plate without appetite, "were you ever planning to tell me about the mortgage in my name?" Mom's smile faltered slightly. "Emma, darling, we were waiting for the right time. There's no need to be upset about this." The casualness of her response ignited something in me. "No need to be upset? You committed fraud using my identity." Dad cleared his throat. "That's a very harsh characterization of a family matter, Emma. We're simply helping your brother during a transitional period." I stared at him in disbelief. By forging my signature on loan documents? By hiding a massive debt under my name without my knowledge or consent? Their expressions confirmed my suspicion before they answered. "We did what was necessary for Ryan and Jennifer," Mom replied defensively. "Jennifer's business plan required them to present a certain image, and they needed the right neighborhood. Her parents refused to help despite their means. What exactly is this business that requires $1 million home?" I demanded. Mom brightened, apparently relieved to change direction. "Jennifer's launching an exclusive wellness consulting service for high-net-worth individuals. She'll combine nutritional counseling with life coaching and luxury retreats. The home serves as both office and demonstration of the lifestyle her clients aspire to achieve." The description sounded like empty buzzwords, but I returned to the central issue. "That doesn't justify using my identity. Do you understand how this affects me? I can't qualify for my own mortgage now. My debt-to-income ratio is completely skewed. My perfect credit score that I worked years to build is at risk if you miss even one payment." Dad waved dismissively. We haven't missed any payments. Your credit score is fine. For now, I countered. What happens if you can't make payments in the future? What happens when Jennifer's business fails, as Ryan's previous ventures have? Mom's face hardened. That's exactly the negative attitude that made us hesitant to include you. Jennifer's business concept is solid. Ryan is finally with someone who elevates him. So this is about making Ryan and his girlfriend happy at my expense? About appearances? It's about family supporting each other, Mom insisted. We would do the same for you if needed. I laughed bitterly. I needed your support when I was saving for college, when I was working 2 jobs to graduate debt-free. I need your support now as I try to buy my own modest home. Instead, you've made that impossible while purchasing a mansion for Ryan. Dad slammed his hand on the table, making the silverware jump. That's enough. We've always supported both our children equally. We're making the payments. Your credit isn't at risk. This arrangement helps your brother establish himself with Jennifer, who comes from an influential family. In time, you'll benefit from those connections too. I don't want connections from fraud, I exclaimed. I want my name removed from that mortgage immediately. My parents exchanged glances. That's not possible right now, Dad admitted. Refinancing so soon would incur significant penalties, and Ryan doesn't qualify for the loan on his own yet. Then sell the house, I suggested. That's out of the question, Mom replied sharply. Jennifer has already begun hosting potential clients there. They've invested in furnishings and established their brand at that address. I struggled to comprehend their perspective. So what's your solution? Keep a fraudulent mortgage in my name indefinitely? Just until Ryan's business situation improves, Dad explained. A year or 2 at most. A year or 2? I repeated incredulously. That's your plan? Continue committing fraud for years? Mom's expression turned cold. You've always been selfish, unlike your brother. Family means supporting each other, not obsessing over technicalities and paperwork. Ryan would help you without all this drama. Her words struck deeper than she could know. All my life, I'd prided myself on responsibility, on never asking for bailouts, on building security through hard work. Now those very qualities were being twisted into character flaws. Selfish, I repeated softly. I'm selfish for objecting, to having my identity stolen, for wanting control over my own financial future. You're overreacting, Mom insisted. Look at the bigger picture. Ryan and Jennifer represent the future of this family. Their success will benefit everyone. In that moment, I saw with painful clarity my position in the family hierarchy. I wasn't the responsible one. I was the useful one. My financial responsibility made me a resource to be tapped for Ryan's benefit. My careful building of credit made me a tool for their purposes. The realization felt like ice water in my veins. I want my name off that mortgage, I stated flatly. Find another way to finance Ryan and Jennifer's lifestyle. That's not happening, Dad replied firmly. Not now. We're making the payments. Your credit is safe. That should be enough for you. The conversation continued in circles, their justifications increasingly baffling to me. By the time I left, nothing was resolved except my understanding that they had no intention of rectifying the situation. Driving home through blurred tears, I struggled to reconcile the parents who had taught me financial responsibility with the people who had just defended using my identity for fraud. In my car outside my apartment building, I finally allowed the sobs to come, mourning not just my stolen financial security, but also the loss of trust in the people I had always believed were my safest harbor. As the tears subsided, a cold determination took their place. If my family wouldn't protect me, I would have to protect myself, even if that meant standing against them. The week following the confrontation with my parents, I dove into research about identity theft committed by family members. Each article and forum thread revealed the same troubling truth. Family financial fraud creates uniquely painful challenges. trapping victims between legal self-protection and the desire to preserve relationships. I scheduled an appointment with my bank's fraud department, bringing copies of the mortgage documents I'd requested directly from the lender. The representative, a sympathetic woman named Marissa, reviewed the paperwork with increasing concern. "This is clearly not your signature," she observed, comparing it to my driver's license and bank signature card. "In cases like this, we typically recommend filing a police report for identity theft." "Against my parents?" I asked, my stomach churning at the thought. "I understand the hesitation," Marissa replied gently. "But without an official fraud report, there's little we can do to separate you from this liability." I left without committing to legal action, instead scheduling a family counseling session, hoping a neutral professional might help my parents understand the severity of their actions. The session proved disastrous. The counselor barely finished explaining confidentiality policies before my mother interrupted. "We're not here because we did anything wrong," she declared. "We're here because Emma doesn't understand how families support each other." My attempts to explain the financial and legal implications of identity theft were dismissed repeatedly. When the counselor suggested my parents seek legal means to help Ryan, Dad accused her of taking my side and ended the session prematurely. With formal channels failing, I tried reasoning with Ryan directly, meeting him for coffee while Jennifer was at a business networking event. "I need you to understand what's at stake here," I explained. "My financial future, my ability to get my own home, even potential job opportunities could be affected by this mortgage." Ryan seemed uncomfortable, but not truly remorseful. "I get it, Emma, and I appreciate your help more than you know. Jennifer's business connections are finally coming through. Once we're established, we'll refinance and get your name off everything." "When exactly?" I pressed. 6 months? Maybe a year?" he estimated vaguely. "Jennifer's wellness clients take time to cultivate. These are millionaires who don't make quick decisions." His timeline matched perfectly with our parents. Convenient, but not coincidental. None of them had any real plan beyond using my credit indefinitely. My next approach involved meeting with Jennifer directly, hoping to appeal to any sense of ethics she might possess. We met at an upscale cafe of her choosing, where she arrived 20 minutes late wearing designer athleisure and carrying a luxury handbag. "I totally understand your concerns," Jennifer said after I explained my situation, her voice dripping with insincere sympathy. "But you're overreacting about this mortgage situation. Your parents explained everything. They're making the payments. Your credit score is still excellent, and you're helping launch a business that will eventually benefit your whole family. How exactly will your business benefit me?" I asked. Jennifer smiled condescendingly. "When I establish my wellness brand, I'll need trusted people to expand operations. Family members with financial backgrounds could be invaluable." The vague promise of future employment in her dubious business venture was apparently meant to compensate for the theft of my identity. I left feeling more frustrated than ever. When direct appeals failed, my parents proposed what they considered a compromise. They would pay me $500 monthly for the inconvenience, while continuing to keep the mortgage in my name. The amount wasn't even enough to cover the apartment I was now stuck renting since I couldn't qualify for my own mortgage. Then the first missed payment notification arrived. My phone rang early on a Saturday morning, a bank representative explaining that the mortgage payment was 5 days late. My frantic call to my parents was met with casual dismissal. "Just a temporary cash flow issue," Dad explained. "I'll handle it Monday." While he did make the payment, the incident shattered any remaining trust in their promises to protect my credit. 2 weeks later, my apartment lease renewal application was denied. The property manager explained apologetically that my debt-to-income ratio exceeded their requirements for tenants. The $900,000 mortgage had finally begun impacting my daily life in tangible ways. I secured a month-to-month lease at a higher rate, adding financial strain to my growing anxiety. Sleep became elusive as I worried about future missed payments, or additional loans taken in my name. Each day brought fresh evidence that talking and compromise wouldn't resolve the situation. During a routine credit monitoring check, I discovered my score had dropped 70 points in 2 months. The mortgage utilization, combined with the late payment, had damaged my carefully constructed financial foundation. Around this time, I encountered a former colleague who mentioned applying for a rental in my building. "I was surprised when they told me a unit was opening up," she commented. "They said the current tenant was denied renewal because of credit issues. Imagine having credit problems when you work in finance." The embarrassment burned through me. My professional reputation, built on financial expertise, was now at risk because of my family's actions. It was becoming increasingly clear that my attempts at peaceful resolution were failing. Something would have to change, and soon, before the situation spiraled even further beyond my control. 6 months passed with increasing strain. Family gatherings transformed from warm traditions into battlegrounds of passive-aggressive comments and tense silences. Thanksgiving dinner featured Mom pointedly asking Jennifer about her thriving business while ignoring my recent project success at work. Christmas exchange included Ryan giving me a book titled Family First: Finding Happiness Through Sacrifice. Its message so overt it might as well have been wrapped in guilt rather than festive paper. During these months, Jennifer's exclusive wellness consulting business slowly revealed itself as nothing more than an overpriced multi-level marketing scheme, selling dubious supplements and meditation courses. She recruited several wealthy acquaintances to become wellness partners, who then attempted to recruit others. Classic pyramid structure, disguised with luxury branding and pseudo-scientific language. Despite the questionable business model, Jennifer continued spending lavishly. Designer clothes, expensive restaurant visits, and home renovations all documented meticulously on her social media. The promised business success that would solve the mortgage situation remained perpetually just around the corner, according to both Ryan and my parents. Then came the first major blow. Ryan lost his job. The tech startup where he'd been working as a sales representative underwent restructuring, eliminating his position among others. "It's actually perfect timing," he insisted when announcing the news at a family dinner. "Now I can focus full-time on supporting Jennifer's business expansion." The mortgage payments, previously irregular but eventually made, stopped completely. 3 consecutive months of late notices escalated to threatening letters from the bank. Each generated panicked calls to my parents, who offered increasingly implausible explanations and promises. Meanwhile, my professional life began suffering concrete consequences. My director called me into his office regarding a senior financial analyst position I'd been pursuing. "Your work merits the promotion," he explained awkwardly, "but the position requires additional security clearance and a thorough financial background check. Given some irregularities in your current credit profile, we've decided to postpone your consideration." The humiliation was profound. Years of exemplary work undermined by a situation not of my making. I thanked him professionally and somehow maintained composure until reaching my car, where tears of frustration flowed freely. The most alarming development came in the form of a new notification from my credit monitoring service. A second mortgage, a home equity line of credit for $150,000, had been opened against the property, again using my name and identification. This time, I hadn't received even the courtesy of being informed by my family before they further leveraged my identity. My confrontation call to my parents was met with defensive justification. "Ryan needs capital to support Jennifer's business during this critical growth phase," Mom explained. "It's temporary. The business is about to break even." "Break even? It's a pyramid scheme," I exclaimed. "And you've now committed fraud twice using my identity." "Don't use that word," Dad interrupted sharply. "This is a family matter, not a legal one." But it was both, and the situation was destroying my health. Anxiety attacks became frequent enough that I finally sought medical help. The doctor noted elevated blood pressure and recommended therapy for stress management. Insomnia left me exhausted during workdays, further jeopardizing my career. My few close friends noticed my withdrawal from social activities, the constant checking of my phone for bank notifications, the dark circles under my eyes. Lisa, my college roommate turned neighbor, finally confronted me after I declined outings for the third consecutive weekend. "What's really going on, Emma? This isn't like you." Over coffee in her apartment, the whole story poured out. The IE fraud, the family pressure, the failed attempts at resolution. Lisa listened without interruption, her expression shifting from confusion to disbelief to anger on my behalf. "This is abuse," she stated plainly when I finished. "Financial abuse. Your family is exploiting you." Hearing someone else name the situation so clearly felt both validating and terrifying. "But what can I do without destroying my relationship with them completely?" I asked. "A better question," Lisa countered, "is whether a relationship built on exploitation is worth preserving in its current form." Her words resonated uncomfortably as I considered how conditional my family's affection had proven to be. The final breaking point arrived unexpectedly. My reliable sedan, already showing its age at 12 years old, broke down completely on the highway during my morning commute. The mechanic delivered the verdict. The transmission needed replacement, with repair costs exceeding the vehicle's value. I applied for an auto loan to finance a modest replacement, only to be denied due to my debt-to-income ratio. The loan officer actually laughed when reviewing my application. "With $1 million in mortgage debt on your salary, you can't qualify for a $5,000 car loan." The absurdity of the situation, being unable to purchase reliable transportation to the job that paid for a house I didn't live in, crystallized the unsustainability of my position. Public transportation extended my commute by hours each day, further straining my deteriorating health and job performance. Then came the chance encounter that changed everything. While waiting for a bus in the rain, I spotted a familiar face under an umbrella at the same stop, Melissa, a woman I recognized from Jennifer's social media posts. They had frequently appeared together in photos until abruptly disappearing from each other's feeds months earlier. "You're Emma, right?" she asked, surprising me. "Ryan's sister?" When I confirmed, she hesitated before continuing. "I've been meaning to reach out to you. There are things about Jennifer you should know." Over coffee at a nearby diner, Melissa revealed she was Jennifer's former roommate and business partner in 2 previous failed ventures. "This isn't her first pyramid scheme," Melissa explained. "She has a pattern. Find a wealthy boyfriend, convince his family to invest in her business, drain the resources, then move on when things collapse." Most disturbing was Melissa's revelation about Jennifer's previous boyfriend's family. They remortgaged their home to fund her revolutionary skincare line that never launched. When the money disappeared, she blamed market conditions and manufacturing problems. Then she met Ryan and suddenly had no time for that business anymore. The story matched our situation so precisely, it left little doubt about Jennifer's intentions. Armed with this new information and desperate after months of deterioration, I finally acknowledged what my family couldn't or wouldn't see. This situation would never resolve itself. Jennifer had no intention of building a legitimate business. Ryan had no ability to manage finances responsibly, and my parents would continue enabling them at my expense indefinitely. If I wanted to reclaim my financial identity and future, I would need to take decisive action, even if it meant family relationships would never be the same. On a crisp Tuesday morning, I sat in the waiting room of Patricia Alvarez, attorney at law, specializing in identity theft and financial fraud. The office projected competence and discretion, walls lined with credentials, furnishings professional without ostentation. I'd found her through a financial fraud support forum, where former clients praised her understanding of the unique challenges posed by familial identity theft. When the receptionist called my name, I nearly lost my nerve, the finality of this step hitting me with full force. Patricia greeted me with a firm handshake and compassionate eyes that had clearly witnessed similar situations before. Family identity theft cases are among the most difficult I handle, she explained after I shared my situation. Victims struggle with legitimate legal concerns alongside intense emotional conflicts and pressure. What's happened to you is both a crime and a profound betrayal of trust. Her direct acknowledgement made me tear up despite my determination to remain composed. I've tried everything, I explained. Talking, negotiating, family counseling. Nothing changes their behavior or their belief that using my identity is their right as family. Patricia nodded. That's unfortunately common. Without formal consequences, these situations rarely resolve. The perpetrators, even when they're family, continue because they can. She outlined my options with clarity, beginning with documentation. We start by formally establishing that you didn't authorize these accounts. This means filing police reports, submitting affidavits to credit bureaus, and contacting lenders directly. Police reports? I echoed, my stomach dropping. Against my parents? Yes, she confirmed gently. Without official fraud documentation, creditors have no legal basis to separate these debts from your identity. The criminal aspect isn't our focus. Protecting your financial identity is. With trembling hands, I signed the engagement letter, officially beginning the process of legally documenting the fraud. The following week was a blur of paperwork and difficult steps. I filed a police report with a detective specializing in financial crimes, providing copies of the forged documents and timeline of events. Detective Martinez listened without judgment, explaining that family fraud cases rarely resulted in prosecution when victims primarily sought financial separation rather than criminal punishment. Our documentation creates the official record you need for creditors, he explained. Your family's legal consequences will largely depend on how they respond to the fraud notifications. The weight of responsibility felt crushing as I signed affidavit after affidavit, each one potentially bringing consequences to my parents and brother. When I returned to my apartment after meeting with credit bureau representatives, my phone displayed 6 missed calls from Ryan. I braced myself and returned his call. How could you involve the police? He demanded immediately, his voice a mixture of anger and panic. Do you have any idea what you've done? I'm protecting myself. After trying everything else, I replied, my voice steadier than I felt. You and Mom and Dad left me no choice. No choice? You've potentially ruined our parents' lives. Jennifer is devastated. Her business contacts are asking questions because of investigators calling about the property. His concern for Jennifer's reputation rather than my financial well-being reinforced my resolve. I spent 6 months trying to resolve this within the family, I reminded him. None of you took my concerns seriously. Because you were overreacting. Mom and Dad were making the payments. Except when they weren't, I countered. And then there was the second mortgage no one bothered to mention to me. The call deteriorated further until Ryan finally delivered what he clearly considered his ultimate weapon. Mom and Dad said if you don't drop this immediately, you're no longer welcome in the family. Is that what you want? The question hung between us, heavier than he could know. Was I willing to lose my family over this? The answer crystallized with surprising clarity. The unconditional family I thought I had didn't actually exist. Their love and acceptance had proven entirely conditional, contingent on my usefulness to them, my willingness to sacrifice my own well-being for their convenience. What I want, I replied calmly, is a family that doesn't commit fraud using my identity, then threaten to disown me when I protect myself. I ended the call and turned off my phone, allowing myself one evening of grief before continuing the process. The support group Patricia recommended became my lifeline during the following weeks. Meeting others who had experienced similar betrayal by family members provided validation I desperately needed. Some had parents who had opened credit cards in their names since childhood. Others had siblings who had stolen their identities for loans or utilities. Their stories helped me understand I wasn't alone in this painful intersection of fraud and family betrayal. Through their experiences, I learned that establishing boundaries wasn't destroying my family. It was responding to destruction that had already occurred. My 31st birthday passed without acknowledgement from my parents or brother, the first such silence in my life. Instead of family dinner, I spent the evening with friends who had stood by me throughout the ordeal. Lisa arranged a small gathering, complete with cake and genuine warmth. "This is what support actually looks like," she told me. "People who respect your boundaries and well-being." As painful as the family estrangement felt, the contrast between their conditional approval and my friends' authentic support proved illuminating. 3 days after my birthday, I received official notification that the fraud investigation was proceeding with the mortgage lender. The documentation I'd provided had been deemed sufficient to warrant full review of the application process, including signature verification and interview requests with all parties involved. My path forward was clear now, though the terrain remained difficult. I was no longer waiting for my family to recognize the wrong they'd done. I was actively reclaiming my financial identity, regardless of their approval or understanding. The liberation in that realization was powerful enough to sustain me through what I knew would be challenging months ahead. 3 months into the fraud investigation, the bank sent a formal notice to the Willow Lane property. Foreclosure proceedings would begin unless the mortgage was brought current within 30 days. With 6 consecutive missed payments and no response to previous notices, the lender had lost patience. My attorney forwarded me the document, explaining that while the fraud investigation continued, standard collection procedures moved forward simultaneously. Ryan called in a panic, the first contact since our confrontation. "They're going to take the house," he exclaimed without greeting. "You have to stop this, Emma." "I can't stop a foreclosure on a fraudulent mortgage I never signed for," I explained. "Where's Jennifer during all this? Isn't her business supposed to be supporting this property?" His hesitation told me everything before he spoke. "Jennifer's staying with friends temporarily. We're having some relationship challenges with all this financial stress." Translation: Jennifer had abandoned the sinking ship. Further conversation revealed she'd moved out 2 weeks earlier, taking most of her belongings and offering vague promises about reevaluating their partnership once the negativity was resolved. The pyramid scheme had collapsed predictably, leaving no revenue stream to support their lavish lifestyle. When pressed about our parents' response to the foreclosure notice, Ryan admitted they were experiencing their own financial difficulties. "Dad's company is downsizing, and he's worried about his position. Mom's design business has slowed significantly. They've been supporting us from their retirement savings, but that's nearly depleted." The house of cards was collapsing entirely, revealing the fragility of the financial arrangements that had seemed so solid when they were using my identity as their foundation. 2 nights later, an unexpected knock at my apartment door revealed Ryan, unshaven and visibly exhausted. "Can I come in?" he asked, his usual confidence nowhere in evidence. I hesitated before stepping aside, maintaining a physical distance that matched my emotional guardedness. "Jennifer's gone," he admitted, collapsing onto my couch. "Really gone. She left a note saying she needs to focus on her personal growth. Journey without negative financial energies. She's already posting social media photos with some tech investor in San Francisco." His obvious pain would have once prompted my immediate comfort and support. Now I observed it with complicated emotions, sympathy mixed with the awareness that he was experiencing consequences of his own choices. "I'm sorry you're hurting," I offered sincerely. "But not sorry the relationship ended. She was using you, Ryan, just like she used her previous boyfriend's family." He looked up sharply. "How do you know about that?" "Her former roommate Melissa told me about their pattern. Jennifer finds financially vulnerable men with family resources she can exploit. When those resources are depleted, she moves on to the next target." Ryan's expression shifted through denial, anger, and then devastating recognition. "I was such an idiot," he whispered. His vulnerability might have once weakened my resolve, but the months of struggle had strengthened my boundaries. When he inevitably asked if he could stay with me just until things stabilize, I declined firmly. "I care about you, Ryan, but I can't continue the pattern of financial entanglement. You need to find your own solution to this situation." He left angry, but perhaps with new understanding of consequences, something our parents had sheltered him from his entire life. The legal process continued advancing, culminating in a preliminary court hearing regarding the fraud allegations. My attorney represented me while my parents secured their own legal counsel. The evidence presented included expert analysis confirming the signature forgery, bank records showing the payment history, and my affidavits detailing the timeline of discovery and attempted resolutions. From the courtroom gallery, I watched my parents' faces as the judge reviewed the documentation. For perhaps the first time, they appeared to genuinely understand the severity of their actions. Their expressions shifted from indignation to concern, as their attorney whispered urgently following the judge's comments about clear evidence of fraudulent application. As we waited for the judge's preliminary ruling, an unexpected movement caught my attention. Ryan had entered the courtroom and now approached the bench, requesting to address the court. After consulting with the attorneys, the judge permitted his statement. "I need to clarify something for the record," Ryan began, his voice unsteady. "My sister Emma had no knowledge of this mortgage application. Our parents created this arrangement at my request to help secure housing for my former girlfriend and me. Emma discovered it accidentally and spent months trying to resolve it privately within our family." His admission visibly shocked our parents, who had clearly expected his continued complicity in their shared narrative. The judge noted his statement would be added to the record and thanked him for his honesty, before announcing her preliminary ruling. The fraud investigation had sufficient merit to proceed to full resolution, with potential civil and criminal implications to be determined. Outside the courthouse, Ryan approached me hesitantly. "That doesn't fix everything, I know, but it's a start toward the truth." I nodded, acknowledging the significance of his choice without yet offering forgiveness. "It matters that you spoke up. Thank you." Extended family members who had initially sided with my parents began reaching out after learning details of the situation. My mother's sister called to express her support, admitting she had initially believed I was overreacting to a simple family financial arrangement. "I had no idea they had forged documents in your name," she said. "That crosses a line no one should accept, even from family." These connections provided unexpected comfort during a time when my immediate family relationships remained strained or severed. Professionally, I began rebuilding once the fraud documentation allowed differentiation between legitimate and fraudulent credit activity. My director called me in to discuss the senior analyst position again, this time with greater understanding. "The security team has reviewed your situation and recognizes you were a victim of identity theft. Your handling of the situation actually demonstrates the integrity we value in senior positions." The promotion came through with a salary increase that helped offset some of the financial strain of the previous months. My credit restoration specialist estimated 2 years for complete recovery, but with the fraud documentation in place, I qualified for a modest apartment loan 6 months later. Moving into my own purchased property, a small but perfect one-bedroom condo in a vibrant neighborhood, felt like reclaiming a piece of my identity and future that had been stolen. The keys in my hand represented not just property ownership, but the rebuilt financial independence I had fought to restore. As I arranged furniture in my new living room, a text message arrived from Ryan. "Proud of you. Hope someday you'll invite me over." The simple acknowledgement suggested a possible future reconciliation, but on entirely new terms, with boundaries and respect that had been missing before. The hard-won lessons of the previous year had transformed me. I was no longer willing to sacrifice my well-being for approval, no longer defined by family expectations. The person arranging books on new shelves was stronger, clearer about her worth, and unwilling to accept relationship terms that undermined her security or dignity. 1 year after filing the initial police report, I sat in another courtroom, this time for the final resolution hearing. The judge's chambers had been replaced by a formal courtroom, the preliminary discussions by binding legal proceedings. My parents sat with their attorney at one table while I sat with Patricia at another. Ryan occupied a seat in the gallery, positioned equidistant between us, a physical manifestation of his emotional state. The past year had brought significant developments. The mortgage lender had completed their fraud investigation, confirming that application documents contained forged signatures and fraudulent information. They had removed the loan from my credit history and transferred full liability to my parents, who had subsequently been forced to sell the Willow Lane property in a short sale that still left substantial negative equity. Jennifer had disappeared entirely from our lives, though social media occasionally revealed her with new companions in luxury settings, already repeating her pattern with new targets. The judge entered and proceedings began with a summary of findings. The formal language stripped the situation of emotional complexity, reducing it to straightforward facts: forgery, financial fraud, identity theft, and the resulting damages. My attorney presented evidence of the financial impact I had suffered: denied housing applications, increased rental costs, lost promotion opportunities, interest rate increases, and medical expenses for stress-related conditions. When asked if I wished to make a victim impact statement, I approached the podium with prepared notes, but found myself speaking from the heart instead. Your Honor, the financial damage has been documented extensively. What's harder to quantify is the destruction of trust when the people who should protect you instead exploit you. When I discovered this fraud, I spent months trying to resolve it privately to preserve family relationships while protecting myself. Those efforts were met with justifications, dismissals, and ultimately threats of disownment if I didn't sacrifice my financial future for my brother's girlfriend's lifestyle. I paused, gathering composure before continuing. I didn't pursue legal action seeking punishment, but protection. I needed the formal recognition that what happened was wrong, not just inconvenient or uncomfortable, but fundamentally wrong. Without that recognition, there could be no meaningful resolution or rebuilding. The judge thanked me and then invited my parents to address the court. My father spoke first, his usual confidence diminished. We made a terrible mistake, he acknowledged, his voice catching. We convinced ourselves we were helping our son, that the ends justified the means. We didn't consider the full implications for Emma because we assumed we could manage the financial obligations without impact to her. My mother remained silent, tissues clutched in her hand, eyes downcast. Then, unexpectedly, Ryan requested permission to address the court again. I bear significant responsibility for this situation, he stated clearly. I pressured our parents to help secure housing that would impress Jennifer, knowing my own financial situation couldn't support it. While I didn't personally forge documents, I was fully aware of the arrangement and benefited directly from it. I should face appropriate consequences alongside our parents. His voluntary assumption of responsibility visibly stunned my parents. The judge considered all statements before delivering her ruling. My parents would face restitution requirements, covering all documented financial damages plus associated legal costs. They received probation rather than jail time, conditional, upon completion of financial counseling programs and strict adherence to a restitution payment schedule. The judgment included permanent injunctions against accessing my financial information and requirements to disclose the fraud judgment to any financial institutions where they maintained accounts. As we exited the courthouse, Ryan approached cautiously. I meant what I said in there. I was equally responsible, and I've never properly apologized to you. I'm sorry, Emma. Truly sorry for the pain and hardship I helped cause. His sincerity seemed genuine. though reconciliation would require more than words after such profound betrayal. The following months brought practical resolution as the judgment was implemented. The Willow Lane property sold, though for substantially less than the outstanding mortgage. My parents liquidated investments to satisfy the remaining balance and begin restitution payments. Credit restoration specialists continued working to repair my financial profile, making steady progress as fraudulent accounts were removed and legitimate positive history remained. 6 months after the court ruling, I received approval for a mortgage on a charming condominium in the neighborhood I had originally targeted before the fraud derailed my plans. Walking through my own front door for the first time, a door I had unlocked with keys to property in my name, purchased with my legitimate credit, brought tears of accomplishment and vindication. This milestone represented not just property, ownership, but reclaimed agency over my financial identity. My career regained momentum as well. With my credit history clarified and fraud documentation in place, I passed the necessary background checks for the senior analyst position I had originally been denied. The promotion came with both increased compensation and professional recognition of my financial expertise. The irony wasn't lost on me. My family had committed financial fraud against the very person whose career centered on financial analysis and integrity. The most meaningful professional development came through an unexpected channel. After sharing my experience in an anonymous interview for a financial magazine article about family identity theft, I was invited to participate in an educational outreach program. Speaking at community workshops about recognizing and preventing identity theft allowed me to transform my painful experience into protection for others. Participants often approached me afterward to share similar stories, many never having taken steps to address family financial exploitation. "You've helped me understand I'm not alone," one young woman told me after a workshop. "And that setting boundaries isn't betraying family. It's requiring the basic respect everyone deserves." The validation of helping others proved powerfully healing as I continued rebuilding my own life and relationships. After months of distance, Ryan reached out with a coffee invitation. He arrived early, already seated with 2 cups when I entered the cafe. "I've been in therapy," he said after initial greetings, "working to understand why I've relied on others to solve my problems instead of developing responsibility." His self-awareness marked a significant change from the brother who had participated in exploiting my credit. "I've started a new job," he continued. "Entry-level customer service. Nothing glamorous, but it's steady, and I'm supporting myself completely for the first time." His modest pride and genuine independence seemed healthier than his previous pattern of grandiose plans dependent on others' resources. As we parted, he handed me an envelope containing the first of what would become monthly reimbursement payments. "Separate from our parents' court-ordered restitution. It doesn't fix what happened," he acknowledged, "but it's part of taking responsibility." The gesture represented a first tentative step toward rebuilding trust and a relationship defined by mutual respect rather than exploitation. The encounter left me reflective about relationships that could potentially be salvaged and those that might remain permanently altered by the choices made during this painful chapter of our family history. 2 years after discovering the fraudulent mortgage, I stood in my kitchen preparing brunch for Lisa and 2 other close friends who had supported me throughout the ordeal. Sunlight streamed through windows I had selected, illuminating a space that represented both my recovered financial independence and personal growth. The journey to this moment had been grueling but transformative. The court-ordered restitution payments from my parents had continued consistently, gradually offsetting the financial damages I had suffered. More significant than the money was the ongoing process of healing, both personally and within certain family relationships. Ryan and I maintained regular contact, meeting monthly for coffee or lunch. His transformation proved genuine and sustained. He had maintained the same job for 18 months, earning a promotion to team lead. His apartment was modest but within his means, and he had begun building his own legitimate credit history with a secured card and careful management. Most telling was his new relationship with Amy, a kindergarten teacher whose warmth and authenticity contrasted sharply with Jennifer's manipulative materialism. When Ryan introduced us, Amy's genuine interest in my finance work and respectful questions about healthy financial boundaries demonstrated values aligned with responsible adulthood. The situation with my parents evolved more gradually. 6 months. After the court ruling, I received a handwritten letter from my mother, the first communication since the final hearing. "I don't expect forgiveness," she wrote, "but I need you to know that I recognize the tremendous harm we caused you. The counseling program has helped me understand how profoundly we violated your trust and autonomy. I'm deeply ashamed and sorry." The letter continued with acknowledgement of the patterns that had enabled Ryan's dependency and led to the devastating decision to use my identity. While not immediately responding, I preserved the letter as a potential foundation for future healing. 3 months later, I agreed to meet my parents at a neutral location, a quiet restaurant halfway between our homes. The conversation was awkward but necessary, with moments of genuine remorse emerging through their discomfort. "We'd like to rebuild some relationship with you," my father said carefully, "on whatever terms you're comfortable with." "Those terms would require absolute respect for my boundaries," I replied. "Financial and otherwise. No more family obligations that override my consent or autonomy." They nodded soberly, the hard lessons of consequences apparently having penetrated decades of entrenched patterns. We established cautious contact, holiday cards, occasional phone calls, eventually brief visits in public settings. The relationship would never return to its previous dynamic, but a new equilibrium slowly emerged. Most crucial to establishing this new foundation was my non-negotiable rule: no financial entanglements ever again. No loans, no co-signing, no temporary assistance that might compromise my hard-won security. "Love and respect require honoring boundaries," I explained during one difficult conversation. "If your love is conditional on my sacrificing my security for family demands, then it isn't actually love." My healing journey extended beyond family relationships. The support group Patricia had recommended became a meaningful part of my life, transitioning from a place I received help to one where I offered guidance to newer members struggling with similar situations. Seeing others progress from initial devastation to empowerment mirrored my own journey and reinforced its lessons. My professional trajectory included an unexpected dimension when I developed a workshop series on financial literacy and boundary setting. The local community college invited me to teach evening sessions, where students ranged from young adults establishing independence to seniors recovering from financial exploitation. Financial health requires both practical knowledge and emotional boundaries, became my opening statement for each course. Understanding compound interest matters, but so does recognizing when relationships compound harm through financial manipulation. Personal growth manifested in other areas as well. I began dating Michael, an architectural engineer whose respect for boundaries and transparency about finances indicated healthy relationship patterns. Unlike previous relationships where I had hesitated to discuss money directly, with Michael, I could openly share both my financial goals and the experience that had shaped my vigilance about financial boundaries. "What happened to you was financial abuse," he observed after hearing my full story. "Your response wasn't just self-protection, it was courage." His perspective helped me reframe my experience not as family failure, but as personal integrity. On a bright Saturday morning, 2.5 years after the initial discovery, I received a text from Ryan asking to meet at our usual cafe. He arrived with Amy, both appearing simultaneously nervous and excited. "We wanted you to be the first to know," Ryan began, reaching for Amy's hand. "We're engaged." As Amy showed me the modest but lovely ring, Ryan added, "And we're doing this right." We've been pre-approved for a mortgage we can actually afford, based on our combined actual incomes. The pride in his voice came not from extravagance but from legitimacy and responsibility, values he had finally embraced in his mid-30s. "I wouldn't be here without what you did," he admitted later, when Amy stepped away briefly. "As painful as it was, you forced me to finally grow up by refusing to enable me." Later that week, I met with a young woman named Sophia, who had contacted me after attending one of my financial literacy workshops. Her parents had opened credit cards in her name during college, accumulating substantial debt she discovered only when applying for her first apartment. "I don't know what to do," she explained tearfully. "They say I'm betraying them if I dispute the charges, but my credit is destroyed." Listening to her story, so painfully similar to my own, crystallized how far I had come. "Let me tell you what I've learned," I began, sharing my journey from victim to advocate. "Financial autonomy isn't selfishness. Boundaries aren't betrayal. And family love that demands your self-destruction isn't actually love." As we discussed practical steps for her situation, I recognized the profound gift hidden within my painful experience. The ability to help others navigate similar terrain with the map I had created through my own difficult journey. The path forward would always bear marks of what had happened, but those scars had become sources of wisdom rather than merely painful reminders. I had discovered that true family, whether biological or chosen, respects boundaries rather than exploiting vulnerabilities. That love without respect is merely manipulation wearing a convincing disguise. And that rebuilding from betrayal, while agonizing, creates foundations far stronger than those that have never been tested. Have you ever experienced a family member taking advantage of your trust or resources? What did you do to protect yourself while balancing family relationships? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, please like, subscribe, and share it with someone who might need to hear that setting. Boundaries isn't selfish. It's essential for healthy relationships. Thank you for listening to my journey, and remember, your financial autonomy is worth protecting, no matter who challenges it.